La 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 la. Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Daring Dialogues. I am your host, Shantos. I hope everybody is having a great and wonderful day. Good morning, good morning, good morning. I'm loving all of these eggs that have been cracked. I see lovely, wonderful, smiling faces down here. Good morning, Lady Barbara. Good morning, Lady Evelyn. Good morning, Lady Kenyatta. Good morning, Lady Judy. I hope Lady Judy doesn't mind. I'm going to put her on blast for a moment. If you ever get a chance to talk to Lady Judy in person, she comes up on my YouTube. Sometimes she's in Periscope. Sometimes she comes in YouTube. Sometimes she's on YouTube, but sometimes she comes into Periscope. If she comes into Periscope, make sure you follow her. If you ever get a chance to connect with Lady Judy, you will see that she has the most radiant smile. It's a smile that lights up a day. So I just wanted to say that. I hope I didn't embarrass you, Lady Judy. But she has a very radiant smile and a very, very wonderful spirit. So, oh, by the way, dressed by my husband today. Thank you, Hubster. He got me this shirt, Coffee and Confidence, because I guess that could be a whole nother TV show, right? Because that's kind of my MO, Coffee and Confidence in Yourself. And he got me this camo jacket, both of them from Old Navy. So hats off to the hubster today for making me look halfway fashionable. He lets me get away with my sweaters every day, so I figured, I would do the camo for him today. So he'll probably come on and he'll say his piece. But thank God for a husband that can style me. Amen. Amen. All right. First thing I want to talk about today, we are going to go into our books, but the first thing I want to talk about today is health. And I want to go really quickly. I want to do about 5 minutes just for women. So men, if you would hang in here with me. I want to do just about 5 minutes for women this morning. As I was saying on Wednesday, but I wanted to kind of hold my details for today. I did my annual physical, which I will tell you up front, I haven't been that person that wants to go to a doctor or have them have anything to do with my body, period. And there are certain things I know about myself and I know about my body, that because I take care of myself, as my grandmother taught me to, because she was a nurse, as I take care of myself, I am finding that, except for really serious things that have happened that I really didn't have any control over, in general, my health has been very good. And so when I went this time for my annual physical, I was very pleased for my doctor to say, "You're doing well." I know I had just got some recent blood work done because I'm still working on my iron levels. And my hematologist said, your blood, every time we do your blood work, is perfect except for your iron. And so that is the area that I know that I am personally working on in terms of getting my iron level and maintained and balanced and all that, because of course we know that affects your energy and that affects a whole bunch of other things. But other than that, she said, continue to work on that, which I'm doing. And overall, your health is very good. And so we won't see you again until next year. Now, many of you know that in this day and age, that's a praise report. When your doctor says, "Hey, we looked you over, we checked you out, and we don't have to see you again unless you get into some kind of accident. We'll have to see you again until next year." So guess what Shantae is praying? Father God, keep me in wonderful health. Yeah, I'm laying that prayer down. Keep me in health so that I can do the things that you have called me to do. And I believe as long as I continue to obey the work of God, to obey what God is telling me to do, that He's going to give me the strength, He's going to give me the energy, He's going to give me the vigor in order to complete it and carry it out. Now, she did tell me a couple interesting things, because I know that for me, I have put on some weight that I was like, where's this weight coming from? I'm doing what I've been doing, but where is this extra weight coming from? So I want to give you ladies a tip that the doctor shared with me. She said, once you hit 40, white carbs or simple carbs become very troublesome for you. And once you hit 40, there's a 10 pounds that shows up that you weren't looking for, that you now will be having to work off. And she said if you are right at getting ready to go into 30, so if you're like 38, 39, she said one way that you can kind of head that off is to begin eliminating kind of your simple carbs and your pastas and your white pastas and your white breads from your diet, especially those of you who eat lots of bread. Start eliminating that, so by the time you're hitting 40, you're not picking up those extra 10 pounds. Well, I got that memo kind of late. I got it about 3 months ago. I started eliminating pasta from my diet and white bread. So not only eat it occasionally, but now I'm going to have to go to 0 because I got to get these pounds off. That's just me. That's my personal goal. But I'm just telling you that, as she said, there's an extra 10 pounds that shows up once you hit 40. And one of the things that kind of keeps those pounds on is those simple carbs. So if you want to get those pounds off, begin eliminating the white breads, the pastas, and the simple carbs from your diet. Cut down more on your sugar if you haven't already done so. So those are some things that she shared with me. And then she also said that once you hit 50, it's another 10 pounds waiting on you. Guess who's finna be a gym rat? Listen, I don't have time. Listen, I feel a little sluggish with the 10 pounds I got right now. I don't have time to add another 10 pounds to that. So guess who is going to be stepping up her game? Because, no. All right. So I carry my weight. She said, man, I'm working out while watching. Amen. I carry my weight very well because I'm fairly tall, right? I am 5'9". So you can't really tell, based on my body shape, you can't really tell how much I actually weigh. But because I know how much I weigh, I know that it's a little over for me, and I feel a little sluggish, and I don't like to feel sluggish. So again, I'm telling you what the doctor said. I'm not telling you what I said. When women hit 40, there's a 10 pounds that is coming for your life. And when you hit 50, there's another 10 pounds awaiting you. All right. So just think about that. If you're in your mid 20s now, if you're in your 30s now, I want you to be paying attention to your body, paying attention to what you're intaking, and understand when you hit 40, there's 20 pounds coming for your life by the time you get 50. So that means that you've got to begin to do things differently than you did before. Like she told me, she said, it may not be that that you are eating more, because I'm not eating more. It is the fact that when you hit a certain age, those pounds tend to start building because, listen to this, because your metabolism is starting to slow down. So here's the last thing she told me to do, which I'm now going to start doing. She said, once you hit 40, and again when you hit 50, you're going to have to reset your metabolism. All right, reset your metabolism. How do you do that? So I asked, how do you do that? And she said again, it goes with changing up your diet. You have to go to smaller meals, smaller and more frequent meals to begin to reset your metabolism so that you can start keeping that weight off again. But you're going to have to do that again at 50. You'll have to reset your metabolism again. So I just wanted to share that. I wanted to give those nuggets to my fellow sisterhood out here, just in case you don't understand what's happening. You have hit 40, you've hit 50, and your body is not doing what it has always done. You haven't really been eating anything different, but you're still gaining the weight. That is what's happening. All right, your metabolism is slowing down. Your body is packing on some poundage, so you're gonna have to reset your metabolism. And simple carbs are the enemy of women over 40. Got it? Good. All right. So that being said, let's go back into the Bad Food Bible for our first book today. And let's finish up the conversation on eggs. We started talking about regular cooked eggs, and we found out that the USDA dietary guidelines actually have been changing on that. So they actually make some changes to that in terms of eggs being okay for you. And this last section is raw eggs are fine too. Raw eggs are fine too. Next week, we're going to go into the section on salt. Because many of us have been told some things about salt, that salt is not good for you, but we're going to see what is concerning salt and high blood pressure, and who actually needs salt in their diet, and the difference between just salt, the term salt, versus the term sodium. So if you have been having high blood pressure issues, I want you to come back next Friday. We're going to be talking about salt in relation to that. Okay? Raw eggs. I've spent years trying to liberate my friends from their fears of eggs. I thought the new USDA guidelines would finally do the trick. But our collective fear of eggs' cholesterol content may have seeped into our subconscious. Because even when I present the latest research to people, I find they've already invented other equally spurious reasons to fear eggs. For instance, lots of people seem to think that eggs are more likely to be dirty or infected than a whole host of other foods. As with many myths, this one has a kernel of truth, because eggs were once linked to a risk infection from Salmonella enteritis. If you wander over to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention's website, you'll learn that you have to take special care to avoid getting salmonella when eating eggs. You need to keep them refrigerated at all times, avoid cracked or dirty eggs, and wash anything that might touch a raw egg, including countertops, utensils, dishes, and cutting boards, as well as, of course, your hands. The CDC further warns that even when eggs appear germ-free, their insides can contain salmonella, so you must cook them thoroughly before eating them. That collective groan you hear is the millions of children who are being told they can't lick the bowl or the mixers when their parents make cookies or cakes. And we used to do it all the time. Sure, that's like the best part of baking, but you could get salmonella, so no cookie dough for you. Please don't think that I'm minimizing how terrible it is to get salmonella. It's not fun. And certain groups for whom salmonella can be dangerous, the elderly, infants, and immunocompromised people, to name a few, they should all take special care. My point is simply that we need to understand the real risk of getting salmonella from eggs and make decisions based on that information, not our fears about some worst case scenario. If we made every decision based on fear alone, we would never get inside of a car. Decades ago, the threat of contracting salmonella from eggs was a much bigger concern than it is today. In 1990, the USDA traced the salmonella outbreak back to some egg producers in the Northeast. In response, Pennsylvania egg producers, federal and state agricultural departments, Penn State, and the University of Pennsylvania took action to reduce egg contamination. The result was the Pennsylvania Egg Quality Assurance Program, which decreased the percentage of poultry houses contaminated with salmonella from 38% down to 8%. So, 38% of them were contaminated in 1992. By 2010, they had got it all the way down to 8%. That percentage may still sound high, but in the bad old days of 1992, the risk of being exposed to salmonella was pretty small at 2.6 per 10,000 eggs. By 2010, it had to 1.2 per 10,000 eggs. Put another way, this means that in 2010, 0.012% of the eggs in the United States might have been contaminated with salmonella. So the number of contaminated eggs out there is incredibly low, and keep in mind that not everyone who eats a contaminated egg will get sick. The human body is exceptionally good at disease. Moreover, even if you do get sick from eating an infected egg, odds are you will hardly even notice. Studies predict that 94% of people who contract salmonella will recover completely without any medical care at all. About 5% will visit a doctor, and 0.5% will be hospitalized. Only 0.05% would die, and most of those people will likely have some underlying medical condition attached. Here's another way of thinking about the real risk of getting sick from contaminated eggs. If you live in the United States and you accept that your risk of coming into contact with salmonella in any one egg is 0.012%, you could eat one raw egg every week, which would require making a lot of cookie batter for 100 years, which most of us couldn't since we may not live that long, and still have a good chance of never eating an egg with salmonella. Even if you did encounter that egg, you most likely wouldn't get sick. And even if you did get sick, you most likely would not notice. With all of that said, it's good to make a habit of food safety. You should keep your eggs refrigerated. You should rinse them before cracking them. And you should wash everything that touches your eggs with soap and water. But also live a little. Enjoy some raw cookie dough once in a while if you like it. The risk is much lower than many others you run every single day. The bottom line, eggs are safe to eat. Neither their cholesterol content nor the risk of contracting salmonella from them is a reason not to eat them, whether cooked or raw, especially if you are a healthy adult. That doesn't mean that having high levels of bad cholesterol in your blood isn't dangerous. It also doesn't mean that people who are taking drugs to help reduce their cholesterol levels don't actually need them. But it does mean that eating eggs or other high cholesterol foods for that matter is not going to make much difference in your blood cholesterol levels if you are one of the roughly 70% of people who do not respond to dietary cholesterol. So, how do you know if you are a responder or a hypo-responder? Simply ask your doctor. Together, you can figure out whether changing the amount of cholesterol you consume will make a big difference in the amount of cholesterol in your blood. Chances are that you can stop worrying about how much dietary cholesterol you consume. For most people, it just doesn't make that much difference. My daughter has always loved eggs. When she was little, my wife and I limited her consumption because we believed that the cholesterol in them was bad for her. No longer. She now eats eggs, as do my boys, as often as she likes. We also let them lick the bowl. As for me, I'm back to eating regular omelets, yolks, and all. So, that is the information on eating eggs. So the most important part I got out of that is make sure you wash your eggs before you crack them, and make sure you are thoroughly washing with soap and water anything you're using to cook or make your eggs. So the little swisher people like to use, some people do it in a bowl, whatever you're using connected to your eggs, you need to make sure you wash them thoroughly. All right. One last thing on the health for women. I am getting my mammogram done next week. So I got my first one. I was trying to get it out of the way. And so I did one at 30. Not because I had I know they say you should get it earlier than 40 if you have a history of women having breast cancer issues in your family. But I didn't. So I just saw that you were supposed to get one. So as soon as I turned 30, I went and got a mammogram test and it came back fine. But now that I am 40, I am getting my second one. So they're going to actually use the one I took at 30 as my baseline, and they're going to compare it to the one I'm going to be taking next week. So again, one of those health issues with women, know your status. Just like we talked about on Wednesday with knowing your status with your sexual health. Just because you got saved, that don't mean you're not supposed to, that doesn't mean you're supposed to be ignorant about your status. Okay, I'm gonna leave that alone. If you knew you were sexually promiscuous or sexually active before you got saved and you never got any tests done, I'm gonna encourage you to go get some testing done so you can know your status on all fronts. Okay, let me leave y'all alone. Let's go into your score and insider secrets to understanding, controlling, and protecting your credit score. And we've been talking about the newbie or person who is establishing credit for the first time. Many of you are still in your 20s, so you're still trying to build credit. Some of this may be very helpful information for you as well. All right. So as the author was talking about yesterday, he talked about two different routes to building credit for people for the first time. And the first one he talked about is the 90-day credit slam, which is what we're going to talk about first. And then the slow and steady plan, which I think he said can take up to a year and a half to build your credit. But say you want to get a 700 and you want to do it quickly. This is what he calls 90-day credit slam. To get on the credit bureau's radar, you need to do two things. You need to show that you're responsible about paying your bills, and you need to have other people vouch for you. Under normal life circumstances for a person established in the working world, you are showing this proof or lack of it. You make payments on a mortgage or car loan and thus show that you're able to manage your credit cards responsibly. By building up a track record over the years with different companies, you're essentially getting them to vouch for your future behavior. But if you haven't had any of these accounts before, you really cannot show a good payment record, and you need somebody else to vouch for you until you can vouch for yourself. If you want to take your credit from 0 to 700 in 90 days, that comes in the form of authorized users and secured credit. So let's talk about authorized users first. Historically, it has been the credit card company's interest to find easy sources of new customers. They can and do spend a lot of money marketing their products with the hope that someone will ditch a Capital One card for an American Express or vice versa. That's why you see card company names all over college football games, NFL team stadiums, and concert tickets around the country. A cheaper way of getting customers to do this is to let current customers add authorized users to their accounts. This has a whole list of benefits for everyone involved. The credit card companies get a new card in a new customer's hand, which hopefully means some more spending. The customer hopefully has done some vetting of the person they're adding, so they're getting a responsible authorized user. The authorized user is getting the benefit of tagging along on someone else's account that is in good standing, which helps their credit score. Now, a lot of parents tend to do this to help out their children, especially if they are college age. Although they have to really think about, is my child responsible enough to not run up my credit card and cause me to not be in good standing, which is not only going to hurt the parent's credit, but also that child's, or that young adult rather's, credit. All right. So a lot of parents, to give their children a jump start on their building their credit score, they will add their college student to their credit card as an authorized user. All right. Remember, one of the things he said about this is, if your parent does this, or if a adult does this with another adult, if you're trying to build your credit score, sometimes you don't even need to pull the card out. You don't need to use it. You can just keep it in the envelope, because as long as you're on that person's card as an authorized user, it's still affecting your credit in a positive way. All right. So if you're that parent that's saying, I don't know about that, you can also just add them to your credit card as an authorized user and never give them, but you're still helping your child to build their credit. All right. The authorized user is getting the benefit of tagging along on another account in good standing, which helps their credit score and leads them to eventually be able to get their own account. With many credit cards, an authorized user gets the benefit of the account holder's full history with the card. Years and years of positive payment history and credit management in ideal cases. That's a big, big deal. The system was originally created as a way for stay-at-home wives and children to have access to the central credit card account, and it still works very well for this purpose. It also works great for a child entering the working world who might need a hand with their credit. The mechanical process to add an authorized user couldn't be easier. You simply call up your credit card company with the name, social security number, and address of the person you want to authorize to use your account. Now, let me put a little caveat here. If you are a young adult, do not do this to your family member without their permission. I felt the need to say that. All right. Don't go adding yourself to anybody's account and they don't know that you did it. All right. That's my disclaimer. Moving right along. The decision to do this, either as the person who asks or the person who gets asked, is more complicated. If you're asking someone to add you as an authorized user, there obviously needs to be a level of trust there. You want to ask someone who knows you and can trust that you won't abuse the favor. As the person asking, you also want to make sure of some technical considerations on the account that you are asking to join. The accounts that are going to benefit you the most have very specific characteristics. Here are these characteristics. Number one, they have been open for at least 2 years. Number two, they have a low utilization rate of less than 10% of the credit limit. Number three, this person hasn't made any late payments in the last 3 years themselves. Number four, they have an account in good standing. Number five, they report to all 3 credit bureaus. And number six, they report a full credit history. Some companies, like American Express, report only from the time the authorized user was added. All right, so those are things you need to take into account. It's obviously a delicate conversation to have, but if everybody is upfront about the process, it can go smoothly. If you're the person adding the authorized user, you don't have to physically give the user a card for use on your account. It's enough to simply add them for reporting purposes, and then you don't have to worry about someone going on an unauthorized shopping spree on your account. Getting added to 2 accounts as an authorized user within the first month of the credit slam will give you very positive credit within 60 days. For the purposes of credit bureaus, it's as if you open the accounts yourself. The second prong of the slam process is to add 2 secured credit cards within that first 30-day window. Secured cards aren't a mystery. Various companies will let you send them cash which will then be converted into the same amount of credit on a card instead of extending you a conventional credit line like a regular credit card. There's no risk to the secured card issuer because you're essentially spending the same money that you sent it. It charges you an annual fee for the privilege. You're essentially spending your own money up front. But the cards are then reported to the bureaus as revolving debt, and if you pay back what you spend each month, you're still building positive credit and establishing that you can handle money. I tell my clients that these kinds of cards aren't for walking around. You're not whipping out your secured card to buy coffee at Starbucks or do online shopping at Amazon. You merely want to show small, regular purchases each month and then clear those purchases by redepositing your cash up to the secured limit religiously. Setting the cards up to pay your Netflix or your Spotify bill, linking them to your checking account to automatically get zeroed out every month. The best secured cards, Capital One, has a good one that will let you deposit $200 to $3,000 up front with no annual fee. They have the ability to convert to an unsecured card once you show a pattern of on-time repayment. Then the training wheels can come off, so to speak. After 90 days, you'll show 4 different trade lines reporting to the credit bureaus. You won't be getting much help from the secured cards yet, but they'll add the variety of accounts the bureaus are now looking for. If you don't have any other dings on your credit report from late payments, you can expect that your score will be in the 700s at this point. Once you get there, it's time to start applying for some of the prime unsecured cards like an American Express Platinum or a Chase Sapphire Preferred card. If your score is in the 700s to 720 range or above, you should be approved. Once you've been approved and you get to the 1-year mark, you can then request to be removed as an authorized user from your 2 initial accounts. It's a courtesy to the people who have been generous enough to help you out, and it also protects you. That way, if your friend or relative goes through their own financial problems later, those issues will not be reflected in your scores, and maybe you might be able to return the favor by now making them an authorized user. The slow and steady plan. The slow and steady plan. So, what if you don't have people in your life who are going to trust you to make you an authorized user? What if you don't have people in your life that you even want to have that conversation with? The slow and steady plan is for you. Not everybody has access to the easy early boost that an authorized user account provides. If you don't have the network to help you out in that capacity, you can still put yourself in a good credit position in 9 months to a year. The advice about opening secured cards is the same as for the SLAM plan. Start out by getting 2 of those cards going right away, secured by as much cash as you can spare. You can also go to your bank or your credit union and ask them for an installment loan backed by a certificate of deposit. That's just a fancy way of saying you'll give the bank a certain amount of money on deposit and they'll loan you the same amount of money. There's no risk to the bank and they collect some fees and interest. Meanwhile, in return, you get an installment loan reporting to the bureaus. So, this is something that I have not ever heard anybody tell me who's a credit counselor, that you could do an installment loan with your bank and they can report it to the bureaus. So, good information. After 9 months with the secured cards and install to your secured credit card companies and ask them to convert your cards to being unsecured. If they decline, request that the limits be raised so that you can fund the accounts with more cash, which is essentially raising your credit limit. When you make the request, they'll examine your payment history, your credit score, and your income to see how you're doing. If you stick with this plan and don't have more than 5 credit lines open, you're most likely going to get approved for the unsecured card. The financial crisis of the late 2000s pushed many people into less than ideal financial circumstances, but it also created a large market for unconventional services geared towards people in those kinds of predicaments. For example, if you make regular cell phone or rent payments, which aren't normally included on credit reports from the bureaus, you can go through a different program administered by the federal government via the Community Reinvestment Act, which is designed to get people in disadvantaged communities approved for loans. The banks in that program can use your payment record on your cell phone or your cable bill to help establish your credit worthiness. There are obviously restrictions on the plan, but you can contact your local bank to obtain more information and see if you qualify. There are also companies that essentially sell you a spot as an authorized user on a line of credit. That tends to be an expensive option, but it's one to consider if you're running into obstacles with some of the other strategies. Some of my clients have used superiortradelines.com and have had good results. Again, that website is superiortradelines.com. The end game for either of these processes depends on what your goal is. If you're trying to get into a position to qualify for, say, a car loan, you should be able to secure one after 6 months of effort and a score in the 700s, provided you have the income to back up the car you're trying to buy. But mortgages are a different story, especially these days. Originators want to see credit lines at least 2 years old, which makes your authorized user accounts very important. You can troll around the internet and find all kinds of vague tips about establishing credit, but I can tell you firsthand with experience that the relatively unsexy strategies actually work. The basketball player we talked about at the beginning, he went to the collection agency that had purchased his medical debt and inquired about the legitimacy of it. We wanted to make sure it was actually his debt and then formulate a strategy for dealing with it. The creditor volunteered a bunch of information about the doctor and treatment, which is a clear violation of medical confidentiality rules. We then made a deal with the creditor to forget about the confidentiality violation and to exchange the money that was owed for a complete deletion of the debt from the bureaus. Once we had a clean slate, we followed the 90-day plan laid out in this chapter. By the end of the third month, the player had moved into a condominium, signed up for car insurance on his Bentley, and was well on his way to being able to qualify for an American Express Black Card. Life at the other end. Speaking of Black Cards, you might be wondering what it takes to get one. American Express keeps this criteria secret, but I've gotten some inside intelligence from friends on the other side about the general parameters. The first step is being one of American Express's top-tier platinum card holders. You should have a history with American Express of at least a year, and a score of at least 760. Those qualifications are probably the easiest to hit. The spending and income ones are a bit more exclusive. American Express's algorithms need to predict your annual spending on the card to be at least $250,000, preferably more than $350,000. You're going to need an income in the millions and a net worth in the multiple millions. The spending amounts increase for business accounts. Typically, a minimum of $350,000 must be spent on business accounts in order to be considered for an American Express Black Card. Get over those hurdles, and the $7,500 initiation fee and the $2,500 annual fee shouldn't be a problem. If you want to be considered, call American Express Centurion line at 1-800-956-9293 and ask for your interest to be noted. Someone there will monitor your account, and you can be sure they will Google your name too, because the card has marketing requirements to go along with the financial requirements. The card is a status symbol, and if you're playing a sport professionally or a star in concerts or on television, you have a much better chance of scoring one because they want people to advertise their card. Trust me when I tell you that it's way harder on a client's ego to be turned down for not being famous enough than it is to miss out on the financials. So there you have it. Newbies, how to establish your credit. The last chapter in this book, we're going to hit it next week, because we've been actually moving back and forth in this book. So the last chapter we're covering is actually somewhat toward the end of the book, and that is chapter 10, Higher Education, Navigating the School Loan Landscape. So if you are dealing with student loans, which the majority of our country and society is, you will want to hear what he has to say about school loans. I'm not sure, some of you may have just seen a new article that came out where there was a gentleman who basically has been blowing the whistle on what's been happening with student loans. We know Betsy DeVos lost a lawsuit that she needed to lose, where she was trying to basically terrorize people who have student loans, and thankfully the states reined her in with that lawsuit, and she lost. But there's a gentleman who just blew the whistle on the student loan repayment plans that were being offered to people who are teachers, servicemen, firefighters, nurses. They had certain repayment plans where you could get some of your loan forgiven if you went into a field of service, like public service, which all of those fields are really considered. But what they were finding out was that the people who went to talk to their loan counselors about the program, some of them were given the wrong loan, so their loans didn't qualify. Some of them were told that they didn't qualify when they did. So a lot of just wrong, underhanded, undercover stuff has recently been discovered, and that news just hit this week. So those of you who are in those fields, you need to go back and check on your loan requirements, because if you were denied, if you were in one of those fields, I think they said that 99% of the applications were denied, and a lot of those applications should not have been denied. So if you are someone who went to school and you got student loans, and you're either in the nursing field, you're a teacher, police officer, I believe, firefighter, they named a whole bunch of them, where you might want to go back and if you were denied certain loans for loan forgiveness, you may want to go back to your loan lenders or to the company that told you that you were denied and say, hey, what's up with this? Because the reports are now coming out that 99% of the people that applied for that loan forgiveness was denied, and they should not have been. All right. So that's the news on that. Make sure you look into that if you are in those fields and professions. Lastly, we're going to look at Wealth Can't Wait by David Osborne and Paul Morris. Okay. And most of the people who have student loans knew something wasn't right. Many of us knew something wasn't right every time those people would say, you've been denied. Something ain't right. I meet the requirements. Why am I being denied? Well, it is now coming out. Chapter 13. Think, what do I want in my life? What do I want in my life? And this short chapter is talking about dreaming big, playing it safe, and back again, and moving from aspirations to accomplishments. Angela Schwent said this: while we try to teach our children all about life, our children teach us what life is all about. From dreaming big to playing it safe and back again. How do you think big? Ask a child. I think this is the second time we've heard that this week. A child's thinking is limitless, free from what we learn is not possible. Life's truths can strip us of our childhood wonder, and over time, we begin to unlearn how to think big, especially if you're around negative people or people who are very on the realistic side of life and they have very little optimism. They'll be the first people to bust your bubble and tell you what can't be done and why it can't be done. All right. Recently, Paul's daughter asked him Why is the sky blue? Paul was a little bummed that without Google, he didn't have an answer. Then he was even more disappointed when he Googled it and read NASA's extremely complex explanation. We're about to tell you something that could make you uncomfortable, but you need to hear it. Your grown up comfort zone and your perception of reality may be killing your dreams. The confines of your current reality stand in the way of all that you want to create. But there's a way back, and it starts with these powerful and expansive questions. If you could have anything your heart desired, what would that be? If you had no limits on your life, how would you live? I already know the answer to this question, and I'm already working towards it. Now, I'm not telling social media all about it, but when you see me, you'll know. I'm just going to show up doing it. I'm going to show up doing it. And I can tell you this, it really doesn't have much to do with the United States. So I already know where I'm supposed to be going. And I already know it doesn't have much to do with the United States. So I do love y'all. But at the end of the day, I know where I'm supposed to be. And I'm trying to get there. As a lawyer grinding away in a major new law firm, Paul could not allow himself to dream of having business and personal freedom, creating a life of his design that included living in a house in the Santa Monica Hills overlooking the ocean. It's sad to say, but lawyers, even successful partners at big law firms, most often cannot afford the $5 million required for such a purchase. And even if they could afford it, they certainly would not have the time to enjoy it. Why would Paul aspire to own that house or have other big dreams if he saw no possible path to having that and more in life? This learned helplessness and hopelessness based on reality kills our dreams. So many people set their goals low because they don't want to fail and they can't see possibility beyond the reaches of their current context. So they begin to dumb down what they want in life. Exactly. You guys, you'll be able to come visit. So they dumb down what they want in life to match what they think they can accomplish rather than what they would really like to have if they saw a path to achieving it. Don't settle or dumb down your dream and your vision. Instead, let your imagination run wild for it. Identify and get in touch with what you really want in life. Suppose, for example, that you chose the admirable career as a public school teacher. This analysis works for any profession. The context of your current reality can be your jail or confinement of your aspirations if you allow that. Let's say you're currently earning $50,000 a year, including benefits. As you look into the future, what is possible for you? If you get your master's degree and have 10 years on the job, you could earn $80,000 a year. And that is, I don't know, that's actually putting it really high. If that salary funds your life's dreams, we would never suggest that you do something different. But if you're reading this book, you probably want more than that. And if you do want more, you must first relearn what you knew as a child. Think big and dream big. From aspirations to accomplishments. Okay, now what? How do we turn our aspirations into reality? The first step is to see if the constructs of what is and what was stands in our way. Here are two examples to illustrate this. Let's say you want to be the CEO of a major corporation, perhaps like the one you're currently a part of or even your own. If you are a busboy at a posh restaurant and you dream about owning the restaurant, based on your current reality, that might seem impossible. It's easy to look around, assess your current situation, and give up on your dream, but this reality is only a moment in time. Some people are stuck in their past. Do you know of a professional athlete someone who used to be in the public spotlight, or even a friend who seemed to have peaked early in life. Sometimes people are stuck with a notion of their past greatness or what was, and that reality stops them from seeing themselves outside that box and in the future they want to create. I'll tell you for myself, um, if it's one thing that's probably a pet peeve to me, it's grown-ups telling me how wonderful they were in high school. Let me sip my coffee because I know I just probably hurt somebody's feelings. Listen, nothing against your accomplishments and achievements in high school. Nothing against how popular you were in high school. Nothing against if you were the MVP of the football team or the cheerleading squad. That's wonderful. But you 45. What are you achieving right now? What are you good at right now? Who are you helping and serving to become a better person right now? All right? So we don't want to be that person that's stuck in the past, that's constantly talking about what they achieved in the past. Some friends of mine I have known for a couple of years now, they just found out that I'm an author and I have published several works. I've been publishing my own books since 2004. And they were like, why didn't you tell us you were an author? We would have bought your books. And I was like, because I want you to get to know me. I don't build friendships off of network marketing. I don't build friendships with people based on I'm trying to get in your life to sell you a product, which is why a lot of people don't have friends. Because you look at your friends and you start counting numbers and coins and you start figuring out how many products you can sell to them. That's not a friendship. That's a customer. And some of us don't know the difference between when someone considers you a customer versus someone considering you a friend. And so I was like, I'm not here to sell y'all anything. And they were like, that's pretty cool. I like that about you. I was like, well, I thought everybody operated that way when you're trying to build relationships with people. You're not, the first thing you don't do is you don't come selling them what you do for a living. Oh, I hope not. Anyway, whole other sermon. So, and I thought to myself, I was like, well, why haven't I told them? And for me, the thing is, because I see that as a past accomplishment. I'm trying to get book 4 of my series published, even though I have already written 5 books. To me, that is a past accomplishment. So I'm not consistently trying to dwell on that. Although I know I've done it, I know that I have more books to write. Right? I know I want to do more things with those books besides them being books. So that's what I am gearing my goals and my focus towards. So as he says here, we don't want to get stuck in our past achievements. We don't want to get stuck there. And many times we can. And if we don't have people around us that are pushing us to do what that next step is in your purpose and the next step is in your destiny, you will find yourself stuck there. And yes, there will be people who will applaud you, who will give you flowers, and some of those people will give you flowers to the day you die, but they will never press you on to fulfill more. Does that make sense? All right. He says, how many pro basketball players fade into nothing, retiring in their early 30s and never accomplish much after that? What about Bill Bradley, a basketball star both in high school and Princeton? Bradley won a gold medal in the Olympics, took 2 years off to attend graduate school, and then had a successful 10-year run as an all-star NBA player who won 2 championships. His greatest accomplishments, however, came after basketball. He was a United States Senator and ran for President of the United States. He is a great example of how to live in the present and future without being tethered by the past. So, see yourself as the future self you want to be. Who do you want to be? Who do you dream of becoming? When you go to sleep at night and close your eyes, part of what you should practice doing before you fully go into sleep is practice visualizing who you see yourself becoming. And ask God to give you some dreams about that future you. Remember, Joseph was first hated by his brethren, and because he was hated by his brethren, God opened up his dream life. Go back and read it. Joseph was not dreaming before he was hated. It was his brother's hatred and refusal to speak to him that allowed God to open up Joseph's dream life, and God began to speak to Joseph in the void that his brothers left. That's the whole sermon right there. Listen, this is why I never get upset at people who don't like me, because I know, as revealed to me by the Lord, that if you hate me, all you're doing is fueling my dream life. All you're doing is making room for God to talk to me about what I'm supposed to be doing. So I don't send my haters away. I don't wish them away. I don't send them to hell. Matter of fact, I'm going to buy some of them a cup of coffee. I'm going to send them a thank you card, because I understand the biblical principle that hate actually opens up the mind of a dreamer. Some of y'all are going to get that tomorrow. Hate opens up the mind of a dreamer. So I don't send my haters away, and I don't wish them away, because I understand that their hatred of me is really a door to my creative life. It's a door to my revelatory life in God. So you don't want to speak to me? Good. It's all good. Because in the void and in the absence of your refusing to speak to me, you just open the door for God to speak to me. All right? So he says, the first step to accomplishing your dreams is to identify what you want your life to look like and what you want in your life. The second step is to create the future vision as if you're living it now, rather than just an outsider looking in. Putting yourself in your aspirational reality and living it is what creates the change. Some of us are waiting for change to happen to us when we need to actually be happening to change. I'm going to say it one more time. Some of us are waiting for change to happen to us when we are actually supposed to be happening to change. If you want to create the impact, be the change you want in your life right now. If you want to be in a loving relationship, bring love to the relationships that you have right now. Am I helping somebody? See yourself in your future life today. If you want someone to love you unconditionally, to be madly in love with you, to be falling all over themselves about who you are, then that starts with you. Are you madly in love with yourself? Are you falling all over yourself? Are you speaking that to yourself? Are you saying, self, you are wonderfully made in the image of an almighty God? Are you telling yourself that? Are you living the truth that you want other people to see in you? If you're not living the truth for yourself, how are they going to see it? I'm just saying. So, are you stoking and keeping the light within lit for yourself? I'm not waiting for anybody to excite me about life. Let's be clear. I'm not waiting for anybody to excite me about life. I'm not waiting for anybody to get excited about my purpose. I'm not waiting on anybody to do anything for me that I'm supposed to be doing for myself. Listen, you got to get excited about your own life. Your own life, your own purpose, your own goals. And you need to get around people who are just excited about their goals and their purpose. Why is that important? It's important because if they're excited about their goals and their purpose and you're excited about yours, then ain't nobody got time to compete with anybody else. And nobody has time to be jealous because we're both excited about what God is doing in our own lives. How do you remove jealous people from your space? Go find people who are passionate and excited about their own purpose and moving and walking in it. They don't have time for jealousy. They just don't. All right? But jealous people have time because they're not focusing on what God called them to do, and they're spending their time looking at your purpose versus fulfilling their own. All right? Purpose fulfillers don't have time for jealousy because you're too busy fulfilling your own purpose. So you want to be walking with people who also understand that time is of the essence and we have to do whatever God has called us to do. We don't have time to be jealous. We just don't. I got time to root my sister and my brother on. I got time to say, go head on. I got time to say, how can I help you? I have time to say, what seed can I sow? That's what I have time for. I don't have time to be looking at your vision and envying it because I'm not on what God told me to do. If I'm on what God told me to do, that's not even in your mindset. For real, for real, for real, real talk. If you are doing what God has called you to do, if you are filling your mind with the purpose of God, there is no space to be looking at someone else comparing what you're doing to them. You don't have room for it. All right? I know Jonathan McReynolds made a whole album called Make Room. Make room for your purpose and get rid of any room for jealousy. Again, be the change you want in your life today. In addition to seeing things as they are, start seeing them as you would like them to be. So assess your current reality, but also assess your possibility. Assess your current reality, assess your possibility. Your mind is a powerful creative tool, and you access the power of your mind for better or for worse through the quality of the things you think about yourself and the quality of the questions you are asking yourself. If you are unhappy, don't just feel unhappy. You need to start asking yourself, why am I unhappy? What about my life do I need to change? What about my covenants? What about my connections do I need to change? Because every day I wake up and I don't feel good about myself. I don't feel good about where I work. I don't feel good about my clothing. I don't feel good about my relationships. So, what is it that I need to change? Because it starts with me. It starts with me. There's too many people waiting on the environment around them to change, when if you change, your environment will change because you will start changing where you take yourself. I hope that just helps someone. Whatever question you pose, your brain will begin to create the answer. Whatever question you pose, your brain will begin to create the answer. There are times when I go to sleep and I don't have an answer for something, and I pray and I say, Father God, as I sleep tonight, as my brain begins to rest, I'm asking you to give me the answer to a question I have so that my brain gets an opportunity. I give my brain an assignment before I go to sleep. My brain gets an opportunity to work through it. And then when I wake up in the morning, usually it's an aha moment and I know what I'm supposed to be doing. That's the power of your brain. You can give your brain an assignment to work on. Here's a familiar and painful example. Suppose that after you make an annoying mistake, like forgetting to get the parking meter in time, you ask yourself, what is wrong with me? This question sets your brain in motion to find an answer to that question. If you ask the question enough times, you will create an answer that becomes your reality. Instead of asking yourself, what's wrong with me? Ask yourself, what can I be doing right now that will take me closer to doing the right thing the next time? What can I be doing right now that will take me closer to achieving my aspirations? If you ask this question over and over, your brain will begin to find an answer to an empowering question. And here's the thing, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. If you ask the wrong questions, your brain will also find the answer to a disempowering question. So make sure that you're asking your brain the right questions. So, lastly, we access and we unleash the power of our minds through our questions. We prepared ourselves for success by what we ask ourselves every single day. Remember, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. I don't go around focusing a lot on what people think about me because I have come to realize in my own life that what people think about me is not as powerful as what I think about myself and what God thinks about me. And so, as long as I'm focusing on what God has already said about me and I'm inputting that into my own mind, then when people come and tell me something that I know God has not said about me and I know God has not thought about me, I can say to them with assurance, that's your opinion and you can keep it. Have a nice day. I don't have to be rude about it. I don't have to be mean about it. But you have to know what God has already said about you, and it's in his word. So what does that mean? That means we got to spend more time in the word, listening to what God said about me and beginning to speak what God has said. It's called homologios. Is when you begin to agree with what God has already said, and you will see a change and a transformation in your own self. All right. This has been another episode of Daring Dialogues. I've been your host today, Shantae Charles. I hope that I have said something today that was helpful to you, that was impactful, that was educational, that was beneficial, that was inspiring. And remember, you have light on the inside of you, and light is the most daring opposition to darkness. Don't let anybody tell you that the light on the inside of you cannot defeat the darkness all around you. All right? Remember, light is the most daring opposition to darkness, so please go out today and be light. Take care. See you on Sunday. If you join us on Sundays, 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I'll be right here with another impactful word. We're walking through the life of Paul. And if you want to learn something new about the thing called witchcraft, witches, warlocks, you want to hear Sunday's message. I know there's been a lot of talk in the kingdom, but God showed me something in the word today that I had not seen before. And I'm going to share those things on Sunday. Sunday at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. God is going to give you some insight into that realm. All right? Take care and God bless. Thank you for tuning in.